Hey guys, what's up? It's okay. Scrolling through YouTube, and I keep seeing people reacting to this video, and I just decided I'm gonna react to it as well. I've seen about the first minute of it. This is Bob the World Builder. Apparently, he is defending Wizards of the Coast in their trashing of Gary Gygax. Um, again, I saw like the first minute, so I'm just gonna try this out, see about reacting to it, and see what Bob has to say. So let's get going. I'm interested to hear what he says that defends Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro.
So kind of like the worst and dumbest D&D related news of our time just happened. This is like something that for the state of my channel, like this community, I feel the need to get ahead of. So first brief summary, then I'll continue the caveat for a second, and then
That expression, I got to get ahead of, how do you, I don't understand that, because if you're reacting to the news, how are you getting ahead of it? You're not. Just stating that for the record. I just felt the need to interject that one point. I will continue.
and we'll talk about what actually happened. Very, I guess, notable game developer, guy who was like behind original World of Warcraft apparently, has some.
He was behind original World of Warcraft. I don't know what that apparently is about. That seemed weird to me. But again, just pointing it out. It was right around here I thought I needed to react to this, because then he was like, oh yeah, apparently, well, World of Warcraft was a big thing at one point. So yeah.
Bad opinions about the state of the game today, and I guess like fantasy gaming in general, tweeted about it, and then literal Elon Musk, owner of Twitter, retweeted or commented on this tweet, and that's what's blowing it up, right? The most followed person on Twitter, Elon Musk, is now making statements about Wizards of the Coast. We don't want that, and in a minute we will get to exactly what Elon said, because I don't even want you to have to bother to look this up elsewhere. His literal
Don't bother looking up the information for yourself. Let me tell you what the information is. Yeah.
purpose, like this guy's purpose, but also certainly Elon Musk's purpose, is to divide people and make them angry at each other, because that.
I'm not a fan of Elon, but I don't think that's his main purpose. I think he sometimes does that to get attention, yeah, but I don't think that's his main purpose. That's just me talking.
That's what's good for his website, and that's why it's really important, just from like a community management moderation perspective, to like, we need to talk about that. And yeah, the rest of the caveat is just that I've already filmed a couple of these like back to basics sort of videos. One just talking about a cool new free RPG. One that is, I think, one of the most innovative D&D videos I've ever seen on the platform, because I've structured it in a way unlike anything I've ever seen. Look forward to that in December. But in the meantime, we'll just address this. So we have.
Can't help but, you know, advertisement of me. Sorry, Bob. I couldn't. It stuck out. But then you pop up slop. Okay. Let's go with slop.
This guy saying that D&D creators, Gygax and others, are erased and slandered at the same time. And we'll just pause here, because we're going to kind of take this statement by statement. They can't be both erased and slandered. That is mute.
I get what he's trying to say, and maybe it was a bad choice of words, but the slandering is a slicing away of the person. I mean, it's obvious what they're doing here. And I noticed Bob's not talking about what set this off. He's going right to the tweets. Weird. Okay, let's see what else.
Mutually exclusive, because either you're erasing them and you're not talking about them and you're burying information about them, or you're slandering them and you're creating false information.
Again, it's not the same thing. It's kind of like the Bill Cosby's the best example I can think of. I mean, and that wasn't slander, of course, but I mean, as soon as all the his stuff came out, it was like nobody talks about Cosby anymore. Nobody. So I get what both sides are saying. the The wording was, I hate to use the political term, but I think canceled might have been better, because that's what some of it amounted to. Again, Bob's not addressing that. I find that interesting. But this semantic argument is kind of, I'm already seeing what's going on in this semantics. Damn it, can't talk. Talk about semantics, huh? The argument about semantics is kind of weak. Just get to the point. We don't have to tear down that, even though, yeah, you have a point. Bad word choice.
About them. Which is it? You can't have both. False. Right at the beginning here. But we'll take it.
I wouldn't say false. I would say bad word choice. I get what's being said. And just arguing over the wording is not doing anything, anybody, anywhere justice. Again, I don't get why you're doing this, but okay, moving on.
Get back down a notch. Okay. And the easy part is here, they're definitely not being erased in the credits of the new player's handbook. And also, in the player's handbook, the first sentence of the foreword or his preface, whichever it is, credits them again. You can't get farther from a...
I believe they called it a preface already, but yeah. And yeah, that's, if reading the segments that I'm talking about in the book, yeah, you're gonna have to introduce these guys somehow.
Racing them and slander. Basically, he just says that in the new making of original D&D history book, which he calls the 40th anniversary book, but as you and I know, it's the 50th anniversary book. He says that the foreword, and I think this is spelled wrong. I guess I don't actually know off the top of my head. Apparently, this foreword...
I find that funny. Oh, look, he spelled it wrong. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not positive. You're making fun of his spelling while admitting you don't know. And hell, I admit I don't know. But I know what he means. So, again, what the hell you on about?
Slams the original creators and attempts to distance the current creators from them. And the line about distancing is a little weird because it's like neither of these guys have worked on the game in multiple decades. They created the very...
Yeah, but they're the guys that created the game. That's the point.
Fundamentals of it. Essentially, like, all he does here, it's like in this quote, and it's actually a thread, there's a couple tweets here from this guy, is he points out...
Right there are the pages that are being talked about, and they're actually outlined. There's boxes on the parts he's speaking about. He has clearly well, that's from someone else, but it's clearly outlined what is being said. So, I mean, if you just read the pictures, then you'd have the story. I mean, if you don't have the book. I don't have the book. I don't plan on buying the book because, well, what's the point?
Some of, like, the top 3 things that make certain people really angry for some reason. Again, not that he actually touches on all 3 of them here, but I think this is like the time where I need to get ahead of this, make my stance clear.
I got a bad feeling about this.
On these 3 things. And we can kind of take those one by one. The inclusion of many different kinds of people in artwork in the games. They're just trying to not exclude anybody.
I don't see where that was brought up in the tweet. That is what he said, right? I'm going to go back because I thought he said this tweet was doing 3 things that get people angry.
Of, like, that's it. The top 3 things that make certain people really angry for some reason. Again, not that he actually touches...
Yeah, he says these are implied. Okay. I was making sure I heard that right because I really thought, okay, but he does say they imply. I don't see how any inclusion is implied here, but anyway.
On all 3 of them here, But I think this is like the time where I need to get ahead of this, make my stance clear on these three things. And we can kind of take those one by one. The inclusion of many different kinds of people in artwork in the games. They're just trying to not exclude anybody.
I don't understand that for anything because I don't see where that becomes part of this conversation. It would help if he was pointing out how he thought the connection was made to the foreword of the D&D book with how that's not including people. There's only one real piece. I'm doing a big breakdown of this very post. It should be up to. My plan is to put this up Wednesday and put the breakdown up Thursday. And I very much break it down. There's one thing, and then I mean it's a cheeky comment in the book, and it's almost like, yeah, you'll get it. But again, that's the only thing I can see that he might be linking it to, but he's not linking it to anything, and that bugs me. Connect the dots, please.
That's it. My whole thing is just about having fun in the game and wanting everyone to play it. So
I've DM'd a lot, and I've DM'd with a lot of different people. Mid 90s, I had a session of 8 women. No men. Me and 8 women. Wasn't cool to do back then. Tell me, you explain it to me. I never did figure out how that happened, but it was a weird night. But it was fun too.
This is cool to me, and it's weird to me that people get mad about that. The inclusion of, yes, guidelines designed to make sure that no one feels personally, not their character, but themselves, that they never feel uncomfortable at the table.
Back in my day, in second edition, if you felt uncomfortable, there was a simple thing of saying, I feel uncomfortable. Even though it's just a game, why would you feel uncomfortable? I find this to be a weird line of thought going on right now. And in my video, I think I find the answer and explain where this is all coming from. Because a lot of people think this comes from politics. It actually comes from marketing. I mean, I know someone who's autistic and plays D&D and they don't feel uncomfortable. Come on. The person is literally afraid of pickles. So, I mean, that tells you something. Though, now that I think about it, should have made a pickle monster for him. But anyway.
Yeah, like if you're playing a horror game, you want to be scared a little bit, even as a person, not just your character. That's the.
See, you don't want to feel uncomfortable, but you want to be scared if you're in a horror game. That doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, which is it? You want to feel comfortable or you want to be scared? I'm sorry. A little bit of word salad going on here.
The idea, and all these guidelines do, is say like, hey, make sure your players know what kind of game you're playing. So they.
Why wouldn't they know? That's a mystery to me. D&D can be explained so easily. Why wouldn't they know what they're getting into? Unless you're a stupid DM. I've known stupid DMs, don't get me wrong. And even stupid DMs can explain the game.
Know what to expect. And if we want people to have fun at the table, which I do, that's like the slogan of my channel, those kind of guidelines are fine.
When have people not had fun at the table? I've known interpersonal conflicts in games to cause problems at a game. That's between those individuals. You can't police that as a game master or dungeon master. You can't make anything do better. But, and I have seen splits in gaming groups because of those interpersonal conflicts. It's a sad thing, but it's true. at the same time, you're talking about making rules to make this not a thing. It don't work that way. Literally, the only discomfort I've ever seen in a group gaming is with interpersonal conflicts. One guy doesn't like the other guy, or one girl doesn't like that guy, or something. And you try to roll with it and work with it, but it becomes impossible after a while. I've seen a lot of gaming groups break up like that. And, at the same time, I'm like, what are all these rules to make people feel comfortable? Because I've never known of anyone. It's make believe. That's the point. It's a game. It's make believe. Why are you thinking people are uncomfortable? I've never heard anybody say that about D&D. I've heard people say it's Satanism, but it's not. But I've never heard anybody say, "Oh, we're uncomfortable with the game." And that line of logic aggravates me, because it's like, I've played D&D since I was in grade school, and I've never seen that happen. I mean, I've seen people afraid for their character because they're in a dire situation and you think you're going to not make it out, but that's okay. I mean, it's just a game. You face that in any game. You face a chance of losing in any game. I mean, you can't win all the time in a game. So again, I don't understand it, and I don't understand how this relates to what is being said here about the creator of D&D. He's talking about the rules of the new Dungeon Master's Guide, which I'm kind of like, what the hell are you doing? Oh, I need to do another whole video on that, but I will at some point.
And then, yeah, the acknowledgement that these original creators weren't like perfect, ideal human beings.
When did anyone say that? I mean, what the accusations being thrown out is that Gygax specifically was racist and sexist. When on earth did we try to imply they're not perfect human beings? Personally, I celebrate the achievements that was reached with the game. I liked the game up until about 3.5. 4 was horrible. 5 is workable, but 3.5 was at its best. And, I don't ever remember anybody trying to say Gary Gygax or anyone else involved with D&D is perfect. And that's just stupid. Ugh. I mean, then again, in a caveat here, this is, and I'm thinking Bob falls into this camp. This is the group of people who are calling like dwarves and elves and gnomes races is racist. I don't happen to agree. They now call them species. I don't understand the problem. Moving on. Although my complete book of humanoids is now defunct. Yeah, well, that's second edition.
Of course not. Without even really talking about stuff in the games, we know that Gary Gygax, because his own kids will say this, we know that he was like a great dad and a loving father. But also, as a businessman, he used like company money to fund a lavish lifestyle, way over the top stuff, throwing parties, etc., etc.
I've literally never heard this. Can you cite a source for this, please? He implies his kids have said that. Here's what I've read, and it's not much. I mean, I don't think there's been much said about it. There for a while, Gary was going to Hollywood parties, and you know how that is. And he was trying to connect with Hollywood types to do a movie, television show, or something. In fact, that's where the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon came from. So, again, where is this lavish parties? It's not like he was doing cocaine off of strippers or something. It's more like, he was just networking, trying to get some attention to Dungeons and Dragons. lavish party. I've never heard that before. Hugh Hefner and E. Gary Gygax. Okay, that's a new one. I'm not saying he's wrong, and I will do some research on it, but I've never heard that before. All right, so here I am interrupting because I went and did my due diligence and I did do some research. And okay, this is a little bit more complicated than we're led to believe. First off, in 1979, uh, Gary Gygax did start doing substance abuse, cocaine to be specific. Uh, this led to his divorce in 1983, after which he went to California and then rented a very expensive mansion there. Didn't buy it, rented it. So there's an argument, I guess, for a lavish lifestyle, but then again, coming off of a bitter divorce, um, I can see someone feeling like they're spiraling out of control and just saying screw it and getting a big mansion just to get a big mansion and da da da. I mean, it's a little. It seems like a low point in Gary Gygax's life. It seems to me. Just and again, there's nothing much said about it that I can find other than divorce. And there's some implications that he may have had extramarital affairs. Don't know. Again, it said when he had a child with another woman, he by his own admission he realized his mistake as a father and started correcting things. So I assume that meant he was getting out of the drugs, which is, I mean, admirable. Substance abuse can affect us all, but still, the way it's all worded in here bothers me because again, it was something I had never heard before. Granted, but I'm not a biographer for E. Gary Gygax either. I've never tried to do any research on it. I just know the guy invented a good game that I love. This is what I know. So, again, this one caught me off guard and I really had to look into it. Knowing that there's not a lot of details and knowing that there appears to be, having been divorced myself, I know you can fall into substance abuse very easily. You're depressed. I mean, it's just that simple. Even if it's your fault, you're depressed. So you're either a failure or you realize your mistake, but you can't seem to pull yourself out of it, or it's especially rough when the other person does the mistake. It happens. I mean, it's just a thing, and for better or for worse, I do feel like the wording here, after what I've read, it's kicking a guy when he's down, which this is already, you're kicking a guy when he's dead, is the whole center of all of this. And again, I'm bugged. I'm bugged by it. I wanted to interject, though, and say, yeah, you can argue that's what was going on. You can argue something else was going on. It's left up in the air a little bit. So, to say he was leading a lavish lifestyle sounds like he wasn't doing too well and just didn't give a shit anymore, to me. But you know what? Here's the thing. It's so not detailed, you can kind of read a whole lot into it, and everybody might be right. That's the other side. But without those details, you kind of don't know, so it's probably not a good idea to even talk about it because it's a man's private life that he kept private for a reason. So I just want to interject that and just tell you I did do some diligence and checked into it for you. All right, back to our regularly scheduled video.
When he was living in Hollywood trying to woo people into making movies about D&D at the time. He's one man who did both of these things. And so the foreword of his history book just kind of points that out.
No, it does not. That's the thing. He's not covering what the foreword says. I find that to be very suspect. because the forward is pretty damning. Again, I'll cover that in my next video, but you're not cover. I think the part that is wrong here is you're not Bob. I'm talking directly to you. I think you're not covering what this is about. You're covering the results and the tweets and the duh. But you need to have a context to understand why everybody's upset.
Hey, some of the stuff these guys wrote back in the day, you might not like it. And at most, I could say
one line on the Queen of Dragons, and it's a joke. In fact, if you look at it, it's actually trolling the people who are talking about it now. It's really weird.
Say that they spent a little too much time on it, where it probably could have been more brief, but it really doesn't matter.
It should have been more brief, and it should not have been slamming somebody that's been dead for 15 years. You know, even when Nixon died, they said, hey, he's the only guy that could go to China. Tried to say the good. Now, it's true that not all dead people have good to say. But why do you trash someone? What? They can't issue an apology letter. That's another issue I have with it, is that, you know, the people they're talking about are no longer with us. And they have a legacy. And a lot of people would not have caught all this stuff. I got the 25th anniversary box set of D&D that has the same book they're referring to that they reprint in this one. And, like, I never even noticed that passage, to be perfectly honest. It was a weird passage to me. I was like, I never really noticed it, because it's kind of like, you know.
Because then guys like this, who want you to be angry and mad, and guys like, where is it? And guys like this, who now, like, professionally, literally his job is to make you angry, so you'll comment and retweet.
As I said, I don't like Elon Musk, but even a broken clock can be right twice a day. The thing that bugs me about this video is he's shooting the messenger and not talking about the message. Not once has he touched on the message.
Tweet and basically just see more ads on his website. He said, nobody, and I mean nobody, gets to trash Gary Gygax and the geniuses who created Dungeons and Dragons. What the F is wrong with Hasbro and WoTC? May they burn in hell. He's pan.
I've said that a million times in stuff not related to this. Yeah.
Oh wait, there's this other fan base that has divisive opinions that I can jump in on because it.
I didn't realize Elon was such a big gamer either. He has like the world record on Diablo 4, I think it is. That was something that had escaped me. But if you are into any modern game, most of it has built off the foundations of Dungeons and Dragons. Not every game, obviously, but there's a lot of games. And, you know, if you play Dungeons and Dragons and then you go into these video games, you see it. It's there. I mean, there's no denying.
It aligns with my brand now, and lots of people, obviously including the guy who made the post, are just biting right onto it, just eating up his little pander dessert. That is the opposite of even what the original creators wanted. That's, I think, kind of where this story ends. That even if Gygax, Arneson, whoever, were maybe misguided in their attempts to get everyone into the hobby, they surely wanted everyone to play and enjoy their game. This guy doesn't. So don't be like this guy, and don't buy in to his, you know, little pandering treat that he's hanging over your head, trying to make you angry about stuff. Your homework, if any, is like, when you see other people trying to divide the community, shut it down, okay? Because that's not what we're about. Keep building.
Okay, Bob, I've watched a couple of your videos. I noticed you're very, very try to stick in this positive lane. I honestly think you shouldn't have touched this with a 10-foot pole, because I'm upset about what Wizards of the Coast said about Gary Gygax. And I am not falling for the pandering or anything. I'm just like, why are you trashing someone who is no longer with us, who gave us this great gift of a legacy, of a fun game, that while I don't like a lot of things that have happened to the game, I still enjoy it. This is the parts I don't understand. Why are you defending these guys? Regardless of your feelings on 5th edition, I have a lot of opinions on 5th edition. But at the very minimum, I don't think we should be trashing the people who made it, especially since they're not here. Upsetting the families, upsetting the fans, upsetting the people that were there that are still alive with something that doesn't seem to be true. And I know some people are going to argue with me on this. And again, there's some politics going on in here, and I am sitting here like, dude, this is. Watch my video. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing Bob did. Watch my video tomorrow about the D&D situation. You'll understand what I mean when I get to the meat of it. There is a minor thing. There is a joke that's taken out of context. And this is a bunch of bullshit Wizards of the Coast is trying to pull. And they should have never done it. They should have wrote the foreword and been just like, okay. Again, Wizards of the Coast thinks that the word race is racist, even though it was used for 40 years. I think 40 years. 2013, I think, is when 5th edition came out. And then it might be 2014. I don't know. But, again, that's worth, and it's just now within the past 2 years, they started talking about, oh, racist, that might be racist. Why? Anyway, Bob, I'm a little disappointed that you try to defend this, especially without touching on the issue. I mean, you're not touching the meat of what was said. And so that's my whole thing right there. You're reacting to these two, who are just two people in the pod. Yeah, they are. Both are famous. Doesn't matter. They're not the ones who get to form the community opinion. Hate that word, but I'm using it anyway. So the fact that you're just shooting them down rather than addressing the actual issue that is in the forward says something. But, no offense, Bob. I mean no ill will. I just don't agree with you on what you've just said. So there we are. Okay. That'll wrap up this one. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment. Please avoid the politics, because I know Elon politics automatically. And I've been trying to play this one because there is some politics in this. You got to skirt it. So I'm just not a political person, so spare me that problem. But thank you for watching. Don't forget to do all the YouTube stuffs, and you guys take care.